There we go. You know how that goes. Can you see the screen?
Yes, slideshow is nice and clear. And
Cool.
I can
Okay.
see you as well.
Very awesome. How you been doing, Michael?
I've been doing well. Some transitions, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
it's been
good.
great. Excited to know more about how to sell a short-term rental, because this is a hot topic now. Everybody wants to know what's what. So I know you're the expert. Looking forward to it.
Can I ask?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Can I ask a question? Do you know the areas? Because when I was in Clearwater, I heard that in Clearwater you can't do short-term, but then there are some areas that you can. Are you, do you know those areas, or are you going to talk about that possibly?
Yeah, you know, I didn't want to go deep into that, but you know, I think a lot of people want to know, so I'll go over some of the regulations, some of the things that are changing, because I've been doing a lot also, and it's quite surprising. If you go to bigger pockets, like short-term rentals are just blowing up. All kinds of questions. There's so many things that are new with it. And regulations are one of the biggest things. So I'll definitely hit on that topic. Things are changing, but also I think there's a lot of miscommunication on it as well. So I'll go over that.
Yeah, because definitely back in the day, obviously the laws, and they didn't know anything about it. They just happened to pop up Airbnbs and short. So they were like, there was no rules or laws against it. But now they're like, it's okay. This is a moneymaker. We need to tax it. So we need to make sure we know about it. So that's one, because when I did that Clearwater flip, we were thinking about doing Airbnb, but then I realized that it's not an area for short-term rentals. So we didn't go that route. There
are a few loopholes that you can get into, that you can do, especially in Clearwater. Indian Rocks is going through the biggest change right now. I think it was about a month ago that they went up against the board and was fighting for it. And they just put the hammer down on short-term rentals, but Clearwater went through it about 3 years ago, and now they're starting to lighten up. So it's kind of interesting the way that the regulations go with corporate rent or short-term rentals, because it seems like the hotels are the ones that are losing money. So then they go and bag on it really hard. Then they're realizing that they can use those platforms to book themselves. So they have a lot of, if you go to Airbnb, you can find hotels on there all the time. And now they're starting to lighten up. They're just, trying to watch out. But we'll go through the reasons why they are putting a hold on it, because a lot of it is really the homeowners around the area. They don't want the big traffic, but they're a tourist area anyway. So there's a few things that they're going through on the legislation side. So we'll go through the legislation for sure.
That's cool. All right, thank you.
So I don't know how many people are on here. You want me to get started?
I'd say let's wait 60 seconds and then we will get started. Looks like people are still coming in. Looks like Vanessa's here. If we want to just remind everyone coming in to mute, and if they have questions, just hit that chat feature, or raised hand. We'll allow that time for all questions to be answered. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I'm excited about the new classes you have coming up with Jay. So that is really exciting.
Yes, we have classes and sessions all the way up to the end of August. So Vanessa's going to be doing a great one coming up soon, the SCR. We also, there's a plethora of things that's coming. So, stay tuned and buckle up. It's on the way.
Yeah, that's exciting. Well, very cool. Okay, well, most of you guys know me. Well, everybody here. And but what I'm going to go over is the one thing that I've been doing since 2003 or earlier. I started doing short-term rentals in Alaska, and that was ridiculous, but was still able to make a really good income off of short-term rentals, even in a small town that didn't even have a stoplight. And one of the best things about short-term rentals is that you can take a long-term tenant, a long-term property, and turn it into really good income property on a short-term side. So I had a fourplex in Alaska. So just to tell you my experience, I had a fourplex in Alaska renting out for about $500 to $600 a month each one. It was back in 2000. And I was able to turn the property into short-term rentals. And all I did was furnish them, and the outside, the whole unit themselves, nothing changed. But what we did, what was furnished each unit to be able to be a short-term rental, and was able to rent them out for $19.50 each one. So I went from $650 a month to $19.50 a month for each unit of the fourplex. And it was huge. And the only thing I did was add furniture. I didn't change the walls. I didn't paint the walls. I didn't change the flooring. I didn't do anything. And who I was renting them to was not weekend renters, but to corporations. Because back then, Airbnb didn't even get started. Airbnb started in, I think, 2005, I want to say. 2008. So as things progress, then they have new platforms, put new things on. Back then it was just flyers at the local libraries and stuff. It was pretty funny. So that's where I got started doing this. Was able to grow a good clientele, and I'm going to go over who the clientele is. So what we'll go over today is corporate rentals versus Airbnb, location, where to buy it, and what kind of style of property that you want. This is kind of what Kyle and I were talking about. So we'll go over this. We'll go over the price range, which I think is really important as you guys sell these units, how to furnish them, how to fund them, which is with Vanessa, and then what the frequently asked questions are as you go through and have clients that are asking about short-term rentals, so you know how to be the professional in selling this. So corporate rentals versus Airbnb, which I think is a really important thing to understand. There's two different sides of short-term rentals. One is the corporate rental, which was the one that I'm talking about, that I started with. And the other one is Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, all those. So the biggest difference is occupancy, the occupancy length. So a corporate rental is 1 to 3 months on average, can go up to 6 months. Anything over, I want to say 7 months here in Florida, then you're not charged on the short-term rental tax. So that's the basic standard rule, is anything under 6 to 7 months. But the Airbnb, VRBO are weekends. So if you think about them that way, they are occupied between, say, Friday and Sunday night, maybe Thursday to Sunday night. You have a lot of vacancy throughout the week. So Monday through Thursday, usually they're unoccupied. So you can have really high income, say $250, $300 a night, but the occupancy is a lot lower. Corporate rentals, on the other hand, usually rent out for not much less. But I would say, $150, $200 a night on the same property, but it's rented out for the entire month. So the occupancy rate's higher, the price comes down a little bit, usually 20% lower, but the occupancy is longer. Also, the type of tenant is different. So on an Airbnb, you're looking at vacationers, honeymooners, people that are out and just kind of hanging out for the weekend, or visiting family. They're looking for entertainment, they're looking close to the beach, things like that. Corporate rentals, they're looking for the long-term monthly stay, which is usually people that are working in the area. You have insurance claimants. So they had a property that got damaged. So they're looking at, where they can stay for 3 months while it gets renovated. And they don't mind the payments because the insurance pay it. There's also people that are looking to buy or sell that are in between, traveling nurses. There's a ton of different types of tenants that come and use the corporate rental style versus Airbnbs. And then you also have property damage. That's the biggest thing between corporate rentals and Airbnbs. The Airbnb short-term rentals, oh my goodness. I have Brandy here. She's the cleaner that works with our company, and she can tell you there is some rough times with those short-term rentals. They just make a mess. It's hard. They've damaged a lot of things, hard to clean. You have corporate rentals, on the other hand, where usually they're a higher stake tenant. They're there for a week to months, and usually they take a better care of the property. They're executives, and also you also have the company card. So say if they do damage anything, which they do, we have the company card, and so the cleaner charges extra, we charge the card. So there is that. We've had people that damaged sheets for sure, and then we just buy new sheets, but damaged glasses, break things, and then we're able to just charge them and replace them. But when it's Airbnb, we do have to go through the whole filing system. So that's a little bit different between the corporate rental and the Airbnb style of short-term rentals. Then you have the property location. So we'll talk about this, and I'm going to go into some legislation because that's what Kyle and I were talking about earlier. In contrast, so Airbnbs want to look for next to water, pools, entertainment. So if you have a client that's looking for short-term Airbnb, VRBO rental, you're going to be looking for the entertainment factor. You're going to be looking for, do they have enough room in the back to entertain, hang out? They're looking for, pools, or they're out looking to just go to the beach, and that's what they're looking for. Then you want to look for those types of properties. If you have a client that's willing to purchase and start renting it out as a corporate rental, short-term rental, but in the manner of 1 to 3 months, you're looking for a more populated location, like downtown Tampa, near large corporations, even in up in Lakeland. They actually just opened the Amazon big facility there last year, and so even there is a good place for corporations because they're looking for housing and short-term housing. But you would never think Lakeland for short-term rental, but it does work. So finding those little pocket areas where there's big corporations. The other thing you want to find is 3 to 4 bedrooms. I find are the best. The little small bedrooms, they kind of, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, you do okay, but it's definitely the cost to get them clean is very similar. So you still have to go through the same process. So you're having someone stay for, $50 a night, but you're still going to have to charge them, say, $150 for a cleaning. So it doesn't really work out too well for the short-term rentals for a 1 bedroom. They may be better off as a long-term tenant. But then when you get into 2, 3, or 4 bedrooms, it gets into a little better. And why I say 4 bedrooms is because when we're looking at corporate rentals, we're finding executives that are looking to house their whole crew. So like right now we have a crew that just moved into one of our properties. They're there for a month, possibly 3 months, depending on the project, which we find a lot. A lot of times they book it for a month and say, but I think that the project may be extended, which is great. And so usually they're there for 3 or 4 months. But they have a large crew. So they're looking at trying to get all their crew in one place. What are their other options? So let's think of their other options. If they don't have a corporate rental and they're a construction company, they have 4 guys coming into town, their other option is to put them in a hotel room for 4 months. And that's not fun. They have no kitchen. The hotels have restaurants or bars, and they're all getting in trouble all the time. They're making a mess, and it doesn't really work out as well. So they're looking for 3 to 4 bedrooms at a good cost so that they can pile them in. So that's kind of the way the corporations, I've seen those work. The other thing they're looking for is good parking, because a lot of them have multiple different people going to work, and no HOA, because sometimes they come in and they have vans or trucks that have the labeling on the side of their vehicles. So you want to make sure that as well. The other thing that I was going to talk about real quick is because some of your clientele is going to be looking for starting Airbnbs or VRBOs, what you're going to see is along the coast. The legislation recently is trying to crack down because there's a few people battling. A lot of the homeowners think it's a great idea to use it as a second home to buy in Clearwater, Indian Rock, St. Pete, all in Pinellas. And they can stay at the property, rent it out as an Airbnb, because insurance rates are insane. How are you going to live there for that price anyway? Sometimes insurance is higher than the mortgage. So they're finding out, well, I'm just going to rent it out as an Airbnb. But you have the hotels that are losing income from that, and you have other neighbors that are scared of the nightly rentals. So they want to put a hold on that. So there's a few locations that they went through about 5 years ago, I want to say, which was St. Pete and Clearwater. They hit them first and they said, no short-term rentals. Yep, 30 days or more. It has to be either 30 days or more, but also you can only rent it out to 3 people or 3 tenants a year. So you can rent it out for 3 months, or you can rent it out for 4 months times 3, however you'd like to do it. But those were the rules. They didn't want to have people coming in and out, in and out, in and out. But since then, St. Pete's lightened up a little bit. They've come out with a document. You just have to register your Airbnb. You have to register it. You have to show them that you're going to be responsible. You're not going to make noise. You show your policies, and sometimes you can get the waiver to let it in. If you're selling the property and it's not currently an Airbnb, they don't have that waiver. You can't really sell it as an Airbnb because they're not going to be able to do it. There's a possibility they can't. And then they would get upset at you as an agent saying, well, you sold it to me and I thought I could rent it out and now I can't. So be very hesitant on all of this stuff, because even if they allow rentals right now and then 6 months down the road, they're not able to rent it out as an Airbnb, then, there may be an issue. So keep up to date. I'm going to be keeping up to date on the rules and everything. So you guys can always contact me on what's going on in each community. There's a few loopholes. One is if you run it as a bed and breakfast, meaning you're just renting it out, but you live in the property, you can register that with the city and you're allowed to do that. Because that way somebody's on the property and they're watching it, making sure that there's not a lot of people, noise at night, things like that. The other thing too is if you have a duplex, like the one I have in Clearwater, you have one unit that's renting out long-term and another one you're just renting out as a short-term tenant. That way you have a property manager on site. And so you make a deal with your long-term tenant, say, hey, can you keep an eye on things? And that allows, because I've actually done that with my property. I talked to the city about it, and that's okay. So having a duplex actually helps. So there's a few loopholes. The other one is a lot of the properties that are still doing short-term rentals along the coast is that they were grandfathered in. So you still see a lot of those on the coast as well, because if you're looking for an Airbnb, I just stayed on one in Clearwater. It was awesome for 4 days, and it was great. It was grandfathered in, and that's how they're able to do it as well. So there's a few, if you buy them that are already established, that's another way to do it as well. So just watching the legislation and finding those loopholes to make sure they work. If you're outside though, if you're outside the city limits in Hillsborough, the minimum is 7 days. So what that means is that you have 7 days, the same thing. So one tenant within 7 days. If you rent it out for 1 day, you just can't rent it out until the 7 days are up. So you can rent it out for 4 days, for Thursday through Monday. You can't rent it out again until that next Thursday. So that's all it means. So that's Hillsborough County. So that's a lot more flexible. And when you're out of the city limits of Pinellas, it's a lot more feasible for rentals. But still, when you're looking at the occupancy, renting them out for a month at a time, and Clearwater is just a month at a time. So you can do as many months, but as a month at a time, your occupancy is higher. So instead of renting them out for the weekend with a lot of damage, you can rent it out for a month at a time with less damage, and your occupancy is higher. So definitely take that into account when you're looking for the location and style for your clients. The next thing I was going to go over is price range. I've had actually I was talking to Brandy here just the other day. Somebody bought a property for $650,000. And 650,000, and I think they put more money into it, close to 900,000 are into it, and they're renting it out as an Airbnb. I tell you what, that's riskier than the stock market right there. That is scary. So what I highly recommend, especially after we went through COVID, they shut down Airbnb for a time period. So that high of a mortgage trying to rent it out, that's very scary. So I usually say the price range is between 150 and 300,000 if you can find it. If you find like a duplex, I'm finding some that are still under 400,000. Finding them in there, and the reason why is because there's a lot of people think that you need to buy the best property with everything perfect and luxury. When it comes to a corporate rental, they're not really looking at the walls. They're not looking at your paint job. They're not really looking at your floor. If you have a scratch in your floor, you go and put a base over it. You're fully furnished. You know, people are looking at the furnishings. They want things to be comfortable and nice. So now for the highest return on investment, I usually say 150 to 300,000. Graystone's properties are amazing. The ones that are off market, because you can buy them, do a little rehab, and then you have that high return on investment. So I highly recommend that. But I would not go over, say, 400,000 because the ROI just gets very tough. The other idea is finding properties that are hard to sell. Maybe they're a little awkward. You have to walk down a hall. It's not open spaces. The reason why I say this is because you can buy those properties for a lower price point, so harder to sell, and you're renting these properties off of the furnishings and off of the pictures. You know, so you're renting these properties based on how comfortable the bed is to sleep in and how nice of a yard it is to have a little, a little sitting out after work at night. So if you can find those properties that just have a little awkwardness to the place, you can't figure out how to furnish it, and then you can furnish it in some unique way. Those are some really good opportunities for your clients, because then you can find those kind of easy. They're sitting on the market for a little longer, and then you can rent them out. And some of the other things that I'm finding is for location as well is near Busch Gardens, in some of the nicer areas of Busch Gardens. Definitely know your neighbors. But finding those properties that are not high in value but safe, though, that's a really good place to start. For especially if you have a new owner into new Airbnbs, that's a good place to start. The other place, Jorge has some in Ybor or near Ybor. I was always scared of that, but his have been so successful. He actually has a tenant in there right now that's going for it actually has a contract for month to month, but they're there for a year, and they're the same people. They just kind of float people, their workers, in and out. And he's been doing amazing on that property. A property that probably we get about 1,000 a month, he's usually getting 3,000 or 4,000 a month. So, and he's been full since we started this back in the day. So that's a good way to find some properties, find some lower range properties, 150 to 300,000, and then doing the corporate rental. So then when it comes to furnishings, so say you talk to your client and they're like, oh, I just don't know where to get started. We do have a furnishing company that's available to you guys. So you can do $300 for a referral. You'll get the $300 referral if you send anybody, and it's usually $8,000 and $10,000 to furnish a 3-bedroom, depending on how they like the style, if they want it high end, low end. When it comes to furnishing, whether your clients are going to do it or if you're having someone do it, what I usually recommend is the biggest thing is make it comfortable, make it inviting, make sure you don't have a lot of clutter, small items. They say anything bigger than a volleyball in the property. There's a lot of things you include in there, a lot of welcome packets and guest books and things like that, but more blankets, more pillows, make it luxury, and they won't even notice the scratches on the wall. So you want to make it nice and comfortable. What I like to do is I go to consignment shops, because the minute you first rent out your first guest, all your furniture is used. We've had it before where we had a tenant that actually took crayon to some of the couches, and they let their kid just mark all over the furniture. And that was a bummer. And it would have been so painful if it was brand new furniture. So what we did is we filed a claim with Airbnb, and the owner received all the money back plus some. But it is hard when you have brand new furniture to get all the value back. But once the first tenant's in there, it's already used. So getting used kind of chic consignment shop furniture is a really nice way to go. When it comes to the beds, of course, we're doing those brand new, but all the little knickknacks that fill the room, that's usually consignment, and it keeps your budget down. We've had owners that go to the top, and they're going to Ashley Furniture, and they're buying all these really nice furniture, which is great, but the ROI comes way down, because now you're up into the 20,000s for furnishings, and to get all that back, it's going to take a lot longer. You're just putting more income in there. But really, if you just find cute things, make it comfortable, more pillows, more blankets, that's what people are looking for. When it comes to funding, this is with Vanessa, and she's going to be going over this class in a few weeks, Michael was saying. And the DSCR loan is how you can finance these properties. So if you're finding the off market, of course, there's a private lending. But if you're looking for the short-term rental funding, that's for income properties. And what's nice is you can even, Vanessa and I are working on a project right now on mine. You can even do it with conventional, meaning that the interest rate is a lot lower. You can do it with your W-2s, everything like that. It doesn't have to be just investor funding, and you can get that price, your interest rate down quite a bit. So and the loans are based on projected, and I could be wrong. I don't do lending, so Vanessa's going to go over all this. But before, they were doing it over projected rents, meaning instead of having to show a lease, you can show what Airbnb projects on your property. So before you even close on the property, you can do projected rents to get your appraisal and to close. So that's a really nice thing to have. I know for the property we have in Clearwater, the appraisal came out to under 200,000, I think, after we fixed it. But then when we went back and did a gross rents appraisal, it was 400,000. So it's a $200,000 difference. So if you have clients that are interested in even flipping the Airbnbs, that's another topic that I think would be a fun topic to talk about, because going and doing a BRRRR strategy or a flip strategy, really, going and buying a property, get it rented for 9 months, show the projected and show what the actual rents can be with short-term rental, and then flipping it. That's a really neat way to sell a property as well. So with hosting, so that's something that I've been doing recently. So I've been doing them forever, for the last 20 years, but just recently, that's what got us started with the investing in Florida, is the hosting. And so what we can do, say you have clients right now that are looking at doing short-term rentals, buying the short-term rental from you, and they're going ahead and they are needing somebody to furnish it, we can furnish it. And then if they're needing someone to host it, we advertise it on over 20 sites. We have 24-hour communication with the tenants, which is really nice for your clients, because nobody likes to be woken up at 12 in the morning or midnight and the AC's out. So that's something that we handle. We handle all the scheduled of the cleaning, the maintenance, everything like that. And also with Graystone, there's a $350 referral fee too. So if you have any landlords that you can bring over, it's $350. So one more thing I just wanted to go over is frequently asked questions. So these are the things that are going to make you guys look professional when you're trying to sell to your clients trying to get them into a property and they're looking at buying an Airbnb. They're going to ask you, well, what are the average rents? So I'm going to give you a little trick that I use. So your average rent, if you have a 1-bedroom, you're usually at $1,000 to $1,800, depending on the location, of course. So let's just say you have a nice location and I have a 1-bedroom with everything nice in there. I'm starting at $1,800. Every time I add a bedroom, I'm adding $1,000. So if you have a 3-bedroom, I'm usually renting it out at $3,800 a month. So that's just the little trick. You start out at $1,800 and then every bedroom on top of that is $1,000. And that's usually how I price it. It's going to change, of course, depending on the location that you're in. But other than that, that's the usual formula that we use. There's also a program that we have. So if you have any clients that are interested, I can run through this program I have to see what the average rates are for all the Airbnbs in that location. So I can do that. We touched on this a little bit, but who are the tenants? In the corporate rentals, they're usually the traveling nurses, insurance claimants. We have sports stars. We have one of our a major football player in one of our corporate rentals right now. We have usually executives putting in workers. Those are the ones that fit the 3 to 4 bedrooms. We have people that are just coming down, especially in the winter between October and May. Those are our snowbirds. And then you have the people that are buying and selling. So they're advertised on MLS too, so that if you have any clients that are in between, you have the option of filling that in until they buy. So the client pool is amazing compared to when I first started in Nikiski, Alaska, without a street light. I mean, here you have so many people that you can pull from to keep the property occupied at all times. The one thing I like to do too with our hosting is that we go for the longer corporate rentals, so month to 3 months. But then say you have 2 weeks in between, we try to throw that short-term rental in between those guests. And that way it keeps your occupancy high and your return on investment high. So a lot of times they say, well, what is the ROI from a corporate rental? And that one is a little complicated, but say you have a standard corporate rental, say you have a standard property that you sell as a long-term tenant, you're looking for that cash on cash return, you want to be at least above 7%. With a corporate rental, because you are renting it out instead of $1,000 a month, you're renting it out for more like $3,500 a month. Your ROI gets up into 20% range. So when we were using Zillow Calculator, if you put in the rents for a corporate rental versus a long-term tenant, you're looking at 7% all the way up to now a corporate rental up to 25%. So the exit strategy, if they were to have that, is a lot higher in a corporate rental versus a long-term tenant. However, remember, it's almost like your client needs to be more into like a stock market kind of guy, needs to be willing to get a little nervous. A long-term tenant, they're going to be there. The income comes in easy breezy. Yeah, I need to take 2 months to do the turnover, but that's fine. Now I still have 80% occupancy. It's okay. A short-term rental, you're like, when is my next tenant? Oh my gosh, I'm so scared. So you need to have the owner that can handle that ups and downs of the corporate rental, not knowing what's going to happen in 9 months. Usually it's filled, so the risk is higher, but the reward is higher from a corporate rental. So just something that you need to communicate with your client on that. So just like it says in my guaranteed tenant with the short-term rentals, just be prepared. There may be a few days off, but the occupancy on all of our units have been higher than 80%. So just like on a long-term tenant, you have the rule of thumb was 70% because you have the turnovers. Once they move out, you have a month of cleaning, fixing all the damage they've done, and then you have to advertise it back on the market, run everything, get it back on. Usually it's 2 months to get it back on there. So 70 to 80% worth of occupancy is what's a long-term tenant. We have more of a week off, 2 weeks off, and it gets everybody nervous a little bit, but the occupancy is always really high. And will there be vacancies? Yes, there'll be vacancies, but very limited as much as we can, because there is such a pool here that we're able to keep these guys occupied and keep them moving. A few of them that are doing the 3 to 4 months rents, I have people waiting to get into the next one. And we have this one in Wesley Chapel is renting for $9,000 a month, which Graystone is handling the next door neighbor, which is also the same. And it's just flowing. It's people are actively looking for a property at $9,000 a month for a 3-bedroom. It's crazy, but it's fully furnished, beautiful looking, and it's a short-term rental. Because what are their other options? They're going to stay in a hotel, uncomfortable, without a kitchen for those 3 months. You can't rent a long-term for anything for a good price. So those are some of the questions that your clients are going to ask. But I wanted to open this up. Let me know what you guys think. What questions do you have? I know Kyle had some. Michael, do you have some questions?
We do have a couple of questions in the chat. Kyle was the first one to chime in. He said, how do you market or get corporate rental clients? That's the first question.
Okay, so with corporate rental clients, there's a few different ways. You can use the short-term rental platforms, the Airbnb, VRBO. You just put the longer stay, so no minimum. You have a minimum of 30 to 90 days in there. But those are just easier platforms to get them. But there's also platforms specifically for corporate rentals. Also, there's a client base. So I've been in contact and have worked with Tesoro, Mosaic down here for a long time, and you build a client base. Also, there's a lot of sports agents that I'm in contact with, and insurance agents that have the insurance claims that they work on. So when you're working with corporate rentals, it's really about building your CRM of tenant relations. So you working with HR at the hospitals. I work with a lot of different corporations that have executives coming in. One of my favorites is there's a company from Germany that is an electrical company, and they're coming in, they're rebuilding all kinds of infrastructure here. And they have people coming in looking for stays between 12 and 24 months. And the reason why they want ours is because they don't have a social security number. So they can't really rent long-term. They have no backing to rent any of those. And they want a place to stay where they don't have to just throw away the furniture after they leave. So building that client base and building those contacts, that's the main way to keep it occupied.
Okay, next question came from Eugene. He's asking about what's the name of the company that furnish short-term rentals? Who would you recommend for that?
Okay, and that is our company now. This is our side company. It's Investing in Florida. And you got the contact down there. I'm just part of that, the furnishing part of that as well.
Okay, we had a question from Esther. It says, does current statewide regulation requirements override the community HOA regulations?
No, so the HOA regulations are what goes. So say you're in Hillsborough County, you have 7 days rental, so that's great. You can rent it out. But if you're in an HOA, you have to go with whatever the HOA rules and requirements are, and that also go with condos as well. Some of them say that they have to be 12 months, 6 months. So you have to look at the documents before you recommend doing Airbnb for your clients.
All right, we had another question about hosting this. So with your company, you would host these corporate rentals, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So we host them. I have been doing it since, well, we used to do it with Graystone. I've been doing it since 2003, forever. And so we host them, we manage them, and we do nightly stays. So we do the short-term rentals. But yeah, we host them as well. So we do the whole process.
Okay. We have one more question. What's the turnaround for the state approval for STR?
The turnaround for, I've seen it for 30 days to 60 days. So like in St. Pete, they're not really fast on things, but Clearwater is a lot faster. So I do have all the forms that you need to fill it out, and turn it in. But basically, if it depends on when you turn the document in and when their meetings are, because they have to do the board approval. So you turn, it's just a one pager. And you fill out the form, you get it into them, and then usually they have it presented that night. So it helps if you go in front of the board, in front of their council, and tell them about your project.
Okay, so we have a question from Najib. He asks, what are the fees associated with hosting / managing? Is it a percentage? So if you can go into that, it'd be great.
Yeah, so it is a percentage. So, hey, Najib, so with the hosting, it's very similar to long-term tenants. So it is a percentage. Usually we're sitting at 18% for the hosting. I've seen them up to 20, 30, 45% with short-term rentals. But we're trying to stay pretty competitive in the industry. So we're at 18%.
Okay,
Hey, I see a
do we
hand.
have any other questions? Yeah.
Yes, I do actually. So can you elaborate a little bit, Nadia, on the hosting part of it? Like what's included in your fee? Like I go out with a customer, or I joint venture with a customer, we buy a house in Clearwater. We just hand it over to you and say, okay, here you go, do the hosting and manage it and everything, and we can forget about it. Pretty much?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. And even from the beginning. So that was the one thing I wanted to focus on, Carla, was to make sure that, you know, because there's a lot of investors that are like your guys' investors from Canada and all over the place, and they're not hands-on. So you could be as hands-on as you want to be, or as least as you want to be. So you could hand over the property. We don't do any of the rehab or anything like that. But once it's ready, we come in and we do all the furnishing. We set up the welcome packet, all the hosting. We get it on all platforms. We set up the whole structure for you so that it gets the most advertising for the property. And then we start booking. We set up the whole system. What's really nice with the hosting is that you have a login, so you can see everything that's being booked. You can see at time every piece of information about all the bookings, how much income you're coming in at any moment. Also, you have a platform that you can go in and you can black out dates as an owner. So you can.
So if I wanted to enjoy the house for, you know, a week or whatever, if there's an opening, I can close down that week and I get to basically. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So the whole 9 yards, and then we handle all the hosting questions, everything. There'll only be a few times, like if there's any issues that I'm not sure of, you know, that, you know, if a guest wants to bring 14 people, usually we have a questionnaire. So maybe over 6, we don't take any more, or you charge more over 6, things like that. So if there's anything crazy, then I may get in touch with you. And then we always keep you guys informed on how the property's doing. So you can go online and see the bookings, but we contact you and let you know what the requests are, because we're also have it on MLS and things like that. So if we're getting a lot of, you know, people interested, we try to let you guys know what's going on as well.
Awesome. Very
good.
good.
Yeah. We handle the neighbors too. We've done that recently, keeping the neighbors, making sure everything's going good there. But yeah, we can fix the whole thing and make sure that it's set up for Airbnb, from just taking a blank scratch of a property and then getting it set up. Like there's one right now where the electrical's having some issues, so we can give recommendations. I think we should do this, we should do that, you know, to make it a little bit easier. But so that's basically what we're doing with the company here.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, nice talking with you, Carlo, again. Okay, any more questions? Well, we're almost at 4:45, so I wanted to keep it at 4:45 like we always used to, so that we don't burn you guys out. If you guys have any more questions, anybody here at Greystone have any questions on short-term rentals, that's what I'm here for now, is to be your guidance. If you have any customers that are buying, if they're looking at furnishing, hosting, anything like that, I'm here. I did videotape this meeting. And so I'll get this over to you guys, over to Michael, so he can give this to you guys as well.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, we want to thank you, Nadia, for this session. Lots of information in here. And I just want to remind everyone, we do have more of these coming up for the next couple of Thursdays. Don't forget to be here next Thursday at 6 o'clock for our culture of accountability training. Also, the following week, we're going to be discussing the SCR programs, and that's with Vanessa. That's July 20th at 5 p.m. So if you have any other questions, please chime in. If not, we're going to say thank you for everyone coming. And I thank you, Nadia, for helping us out today with this and sharing your knowledge.
Yeah, nice seeing
Thank
you
you,
all
Nadia.
again. Yeah, nice
Thank
talking with
you.
you.
All right. Thank you.
See you guys later.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.